Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs! We are live, episode 113, coming at you from the Valley on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Your boy's hyped. Football's around the corner. Ohio State, Texas, the big game Saturday morning. I'm heading with some friends that I've been doing fantasy football with to Vegas. We got a penthouse on the Strip for our fantasy draft on Saturday afternoon. I mean, we've been doing this for over 10 years. I've been commissioning it. We got a trophy, the whole nine. Super excited for that and just feeling good. Football's back. We're getting a little bit of cooler weather here. And I'm pretty hyped for the Steelers. I think everyone should have a general excitement with the new slate with the NFL. Anything is possible. But the thought of the Steelers potentially winning a playoff game with Aaron Rodgers has me fired up. But a little bit of a shorter show this week. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you get your podcasts and videos, of course, on YouTube. And we will talk about some fights that have been announced. We will recap the PFL Championship card, the road to the UFC semis, and the Contender Series Episode 3. What a doozy it was from Tuesday. And then recap UFC Shanghai. Next week, we will talk about the upcoming slate of fights. We'll preview UFC Paris and go from there. So let's just jump right in. We got Josh Emmett, Yusuf Zalal, UFC 320. That's a very fun fight. A very quick in and out, high twitch fighter and a just powerful beast. My nickname for him is Mr. Clean because he's a shredded, bald white guy. We got Jonathan Mikulev taking on Oban Elliott September 27th. We have Jake Matthews and Neil Magny September 27th. That should be a great fight. Speaking of great fights in Rio, we got Randy Brown, Gabriel Bonfim. I mean, the resume that Bonfim has young in his career is pretty tremendous. We have Ricardo Ramos and Con Offley on that Rio card as well. Moving into October 18th, we get Kyle Prepelic taking on Drew Dober in a rebound attempt. All the way out to UFC 322, we have Aaron Blanchfield and Tracy Cortez. Seems like Blanchfield couldn't get an upper-level opponent, so she gets to take on Tracy Cortez, who is coming off a fantastic performance. And then already going into November 1st, we have Timmy Kwamba and Chong Ho Lee. And November 8th, Myra Bueno Silva taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti. So let's talk about the PFL from this weekend. The whole thing that I had circled here was Wyoming collegiate wrestling legend Bryce Meredith here out of the MMA lab in Phoenix. And, undefeated fighter taking on a Cuban national wrestler in Lazaro Dayron. He did lose to a round 3 TKO, but god damn did he come out hot in that first round. He looked absolutely fantastic. The second round, a little bit of a dogfight, but Lazaro started getting momentum into the second round. A lot of failed takedown attempts as Bryce didn't really have a lot of luster on his striking or crisp technique and wasn't able to move in and out like he would like to. So Dayron took advantage of that, landed some nice shots late in the third round, ended up getting a finish. Hate to see that it finished that way, but I do expect Bryce to be better. I expect two of these guys to be some of the better talent in the bantamweight division for the PFL and should be considered for the playoff next year. We also had Josh Silverio with the unanimous decision over Murad Ramazanov. Little underdog love there. I pretty much had a clean sweep beside the Bryce fight. We had Oleg Popov with the split decision over Alexander Romanov. I didn't even see the fight, to be honest with you. Don't really care. A split decision, I could imagine what had transpired there. We had Antonio Carlos Jr. with a round 2 submission via rear naked choke over Sullivan Collery. 500 racks for Antonio. And then a fantastic performance by Fabian Edwards with a round 3 knockout head kick on the anniversary of Leon Edwards' kill shot head kick 2 years ago over a very good up-and-coming Dalton Rosta. Yeah, I think Fabian's got to have some of the bigger star power. Him and Thad Jean really pulling the PFL brass right now. They're consistent. They show up. They make weight. They're healthy. The PFL's definitely had some issues with that. Pretty good card. I'd say the best card of the championships. We talked last week about the announcement of the Usman rematch with Paul Hughes. But let's look at the slate. I think they only have one official card announced right now for the remainder of the year, if I'm accurate. Let's see what we find. I'm feeling good, guys. I got a big sell at work today. Been going on site to Chicago to make it happen. Getting some fruits to my labor. Heading to Viva Las Vegas. Your boy's feeling good. But yeah, right now, October 3rd, the Dubai series is the only card announced. We also get Corey Anderson on that card. Archie Colgan, another undefeated YO wrestling product, taking on JJ Wilson, 11-1. Artem Lobov taking on Zubaira Tukugov. Colin Lograin fighting. Magomed Magomedov taking on Sergio Pettis. A clash of styles there. So a decent little card. That'll be happening early morning on October 3rd. We'll talk about it before it comes. But let's talk about the road to the UFC semis. The main event, not related to earning a UFC contract. We had Bruno Brazil with a unanimous decision over Shi Ming. I did not catch the fight. We had Nayam Jargol Tumadamabarrel with a round 1 submission via rear naked choke over Terrence Saturn in flyweight. Kichiro Nakamura, unanimous decision over Kai Win at featherweight. Sangwoo Kim with a round 2 submission via rear naked choke over Ren Yawei at lightweight. Sulangrengagbo, unanimous decision over Shimkai Shang. And then Dom Marfan with the unanimous decision over Jaehyung Park. I will really tune into these to the finals to see who the upcoming UFC talent will be. Lots of finishes, lots of submissions. Solid event before the Shanghai event a day before. And then we have Dana White Contender Series Episode 3. Absolute banger. All winners awarded contracts. Much like last year, Episode 1 of Clunker. We'll see if they can continue, but you know Dana White's loving it right now. We had Dante Johnson with a round 1 TKO over Darian Abbey at heavyweight. Dominant performance. I do think Johnson's going to have to be at light heavyweight. I think he weighed in at like 220. So it'll be interesting to see what the UFC does if they force him into light heavyweight or not. Absolutely amazing fight between Manuel Sousa. He got a round 3 TKO over Christian Perez. Sousa is a former Bellator fighter. Already has a good resume. Put up a good fight against the undefeated Archie Colgan. And he was dominated in the first round. He was out-wrestled, out-struck. And much like that Bryce Meredith fight, started swinging momentum in the second half of the second round. But man, did this dude come in amazing shape because Perez was absolutely exhausted for his offensive onslaught and wrestling. Sousa in round 3 was still bouncing. Huge traps, huge shoulders. It doesn't matter. He looked great. And although he couldn't get the finish, Perez just tired out, couldn't get takedowns anymore. Couldn't get an opportunity to coast a victory. Brilliant performance by Manuel Sousa. I think we'll see more of Christian Perez if he doesn't get another Contender Series attempt for a short notice fill-in. Then we had an absolutely powerful display from Abdul Rahman Yakyev, a 30-second knockout TKO over Alik Lorenz from the MMA lab. And then we had another Chechen taking advantage as Marcio Barbosa took it to Damon Wilson. He was pretty much knocked out 3 times in the fight, somehow lasted and got out of the round, but what a performance there. And then Ryan Gondra walked through Trent Miller in dominant fashion. But I am super hyped up for the Dana White Contender Series next week. Let's look who all the fights are. And the reason I'm excited is we get another Tim Welch prodigy from Montana, 4-time wrestling champion Tommy McMillan, 8-0. I've been watching him on the local circuit. Guy is an absolute stud, good everywhere, taking on a very good David Magoyan. Guess he's like cousins with Arman Sarukian. He's undefeated, 7-0. And then we also have a short notice change. Antoine Ho, who had a tough go last year in the Contender Series, looking really good. Trains here in Phoenix too, taking on Eduardo Chapelin, the LFA champion. And then the main event is Jack Congdon, 7-1, taking on Jean Paul Lebosnayani. So solid card for the Contender Series next week. Excited to break that down. But let's talk about UFC Shanghai. I went 6-4 on my picks. So we're at 695 wins, 345 losses. We're still doubled up. 9 no contests and draws. On the year, 211 wins, 104 losses, 2 no contests or draws. To recap this card, I was pretty excited about the main card. I didn't think any of those big main fights really delivered. They were pretty sloppy, but a lot of that came from the Aljo fight. We had the weight fiasco from Ortega. He looked dead on the scales, couldn't make weight, was a catch weight. Brian said he had been preparing for a legend fight in the lightweight division. Although he didn't announce a name, it was just head scratching because it didn't look like he was prepared to fight anybody. Plus the lack of offense was head scratching. I thought we would see Pavlovich starch Waldo. He was patient, which was probably a good thing. But the highlight for me was the Charles Johnson and Rong Zhu fights. I'm going to recap this a 4 out of 10. I previewed it a 7 out of 10. So a big whiff from your boy. Some good fights we did not break down. We have Yuran Satibaldiev with a round 1 submission via Ezekiel choke. I mean, when was the last time you saw an Ezekiel choke? You're laying on top. It's not a super deadly choke, kind of a pressure choke. But he got the finish over DR Nurgazai, performance of the night, 50 Gs for Yuran. Then we had Yi Za with a round 1 TKO over Weston Wilson, slight work there. And then Nurai Taliki with a round 1 TKO over Kiefer Crosby with some questionable decisions, potential DQ situation there. But let's kick it off. Welcome back to the UFC. Kyle Dawkins with a round 1 TKO over Michelle Pereira. Performance of the night, 50 Gs, add the bonus to the bank. And man, Kyle did not have to deal with the crazy early pressure from Michelle or any of the unorthodox attacks because he was able to time up a big shot, put Michelle on his ass, and from there was able to finish up with some good ground and pound. You know, Pereira had bounced his head on the back of his canvas. I think he was knocked out. That ground and pound woke him back up. I did think it was a good stoppage. But congrats to Kyle, a new multi-fight with the UFC, off to an amazing start. I think he surprised a lot of people. And Michelle only landed 2 total insignificant. Kyle 7 total, 5 significant with the knockdown. So Kyle extends that winning streak to 5. He's 5-0 since his last UFC stint. And Michelle extends his losing streak to 3. He is now an even 3-3 since 2023. Definitely puts Pereira in a bad spot. I would love to see him take on Eric Anders in his retirement fight. I think that would be a fantastic showdown. And for Kyle, he could take on Andre Petroski as he looks to continue to roll in his UFC return. Andre Petroski did just get booked. So let's see. Let's see if we could get a new matchup here. For Kyle. Is it middleweight? Yeah, he's at middleweight. Let's see. He's not on Tapology in there yet, or at least in the top 50. How about a fight with man, a lot of the guys that's in his range are on big winning streaks. I'm going to say Ozzy Diaz if he loses to Ataba Gautier, which I would assume he does, or the winner of Andre Muniz and Edmund Shabazian. Moving on, we had Rong Zhu with the unanimous decision over Austin Hubbard. And Rong Zhu, as I expected, was just too fast. His boxing technique was too crisp. And Austin really struggled to get takedowns. And without the ability to take Rong Zhu down and hold him there, he wasn't going to be great at closing distance and popping combos. But Rong Zhu was able to counter him, control the pace, control the middle of the octagon. I really do like Austin. He's a well-rounded fighter. He just doesn't have enough creativity in his striking arsenal and is too grappling dependent. And I think he should have utilized kicks more, maybe some lower kicks to Rong Zhu, so he wouldn't be comfortable in his boxing stance and fire away with those quick combos. But Rong Zhu, man, still a young fighter. Now that he's at City Kickboxing, looks to be a unit. He is building quite a resume, and I do think Austin's days in the UFC might be numbered. Breaking down the stats, Rong Zhu landed 104 total strikes, 101 of them significant. Austin landed 77 total, 75 of them significant. He only had 2 takedowns in 12 attempts, so credit Rong Zhu. A lot of those takedown attempts were kind of desperation to get some momentum going, but he did have 1 minute and 2 seconds of control time. So Rong Zhu extends his winning streak to 2. He is 5-1 since 2023, 2-1 since he's returned to the UFC. And Austin extends that losing streak to 3. He's only 1-4 since 2023. And what's next? I would like to see Austin, if he's still in the UFC, take on Cody Steele. And for Rong Zhu, how about Elves Brenner? That's an absolute banger. Then in the prelim headliner, we had Charles Johnson with a round 2 TKO over Yoni Kavanaugh. Performance of the night, 50 G's for energy, man. And a fight I got wrong, but I was super stoked about it. As I mentioned last week, I am very high on Yoni's potential in the UFC. And I think he showed why he has the potential. He put it on full display. He was literally ragdolling and doing whatever he wanted with a very talented Charles Johnson, who I do think is very underrated, for a round and a half. But it's a 3-round fight. He was pressuring Johnson. He was too fast and powerful. He was putting on a striking clinic. And in round 2, he fired some combos that opened up a beautiful takedown. And he did come in great shape. Charles was starting to be more active in round 2 because he had to be. And when Kavanaugh was retreating towards the octagon, he had his hands down. Charles made him pay an absolute bullseye over the right-hand counter with his length advantage too, nice and snappy. And that was what did it. But man, Yoni Kavanaugh looked legit. Love to see this for Charles Johnson. Statistically, Charles landed 52 total strikes, 44 of them significant. He had 1 takedown in 5 attempts, a knockdown and 32 seconds of control time. Yoni landed 60 total, so 8 more, 59 significant, 15 more. Had 1 takedown in 2 attempts, a submission attempt, a reversal, and 59 seconds of control time. This kid is good everywhere. I would not be surprised if he moved up to the bantamweight division later in his career as well. But now Charles starts a new winning streak. He is 6-4 since 2023, 5 fights a year. He moves up 2 spots in the rankings to number 13. And Yoni suffers his first pro loss. He is now 3-1 in the UFC. So what's next? Well, I really do think Charles deserves to fight up in the rankings, take on a veteran. No more having to fend off the best prospects in the division. So how about Steve Erceg? I think that would be a great matchup. And for Yoni, he could take on Ode Osborne. And that set us up in the main card. We had Sergey Pavlovich with a unanimous decision over Waldo Cortez Acosta. And boy, has Sergey changed up his 0-100 aggressive style. He led the dance in here with his length. He had that 14-inch reach advantage. His jab controlled the fight and pretty much was in full control for 15 minutes. Throughout the 15 minutes, Sergey did land some big power shots on Waldo. But to be honest, my biggest takeaway from this fight is how durable Waldo is. He was able to take big shots, keep going, shook it off pretty well, and didn't have a lot of visible damage until the very end of the fight. I thought Waldo did a good job hanging in there. He just wasn't skilled enough to lead the dance, close the distance, and not avoid getting knocked out. He did earn Pavlovich's respects, but Pavlovich was able to control this and own the fight with his strengths. So I thought Sergey getting the job done, being conservative a little bit, being patient. Waldo obviously isn't a top 5 heavyweight, but man, his durability could definitely do him favors in the UFC. Statistically, Sergey landed 63 total strikes, 61 of them significant. He was 0 for 3 in takedown attempts. And Waldo landed 45 total and significant, so about 20 less. So Sergey now extends that winning streak to 2. He is 3-2 since 2023. And Waldo ends that 5-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak and moves to 5-2 since 2023. So what's next? Well, for Sergey, it's not clear cut. He's going to have to give someone like Curtis Blades a rematch, or potentially wait for the Aspinall-Gane fight, or maybe even fight back a little bit and take on someone like Marcin Tybura. I think that's the most logical bout. And for Waldo, how about Shamil Gaziev? Moving on, the fight that I was most excited about, we had Aljamain Sterling with a unanimous decision over Brian Ortega. And again, this fight was pretty much set up for failure. At least Brian was still able to make the fight happen. Because like I said, the weight cut was brutal. He went to the hospital supposedly. He had a fight prepared at lightweight. And, it didn't seem like he was really prepared. It looked like he was about to die on the scale. It didn't seem like he was prepared for the best fight of his life, because Aljo just took it to him from distance. Brian only threw 2 total strikes in round 1, 9 in round 2, had his back up against the cage, and really didn't do anything until rounds 4 and 5. He finally threw out some volume, but it was clearly too late. And every time Brian tried to offensively wrestle Aljo was able to take control and end up on top. Not to discredit Aljo, but he wasn't super offensive either. He did enough to win the rounds, and in round 5 was in full defense mode. I mean, he was pretty much circling and running away from Brian. He didn't want to get finished, didn't want to have an opportunity to lose the fight. A guy like that, if you want to fight for the title, you got to make a statement. You got to go out there and do it. And I thought that was pretty disappointing for what the fight had the potential to be. I thought both men lost some stock in the UFC. Statistically, Brian landed 100 total strikes, 55 of them significant. He was 0 for 2 in takedown attempts. And Aljo landed 153 total, 124 of them significant, so 70 more significant. He was 3 for 6 in takedowns with 3 minutes and 55 seconds of control time. So Aljo starts a new winning streak. He's 3-2 since 2023. He moves up 2 spots in the featherweight division to number 5. And Brian extends his losing streak to 2. He's only 1-2 since 2023 and drops down 2 spots to number 7. So where do these guys go next? Well, Aljo asked for the title shot. I don't think his performance is going to warrant that. So I think a fight with Arnold Allen would make sense. And for Brian, I do think he moves up. I would like to see him fight Steve Garcia. Moving on. In the main event, we had Johnny Walker with a round 2 TKO over Zhang Mingyang. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Johnny Walker. And I was hysterically laughing prepping this fight because you never know with Johnny. I mean, he blasted right at the beginning of the fight. A huge double leg attempt fell below the knees of Zhang, but somehow Zhang got put in a position where he was able to just kind of float on top of Walker's body and start the fucking fight in total control and top control. That's a Johnny Walker move if I've ever seen it. I mean, Johnny's plan was probably to wrestle Zhang and take advantage of his weakness. But man, Johnny can just never chill and stick to a simple game plan. I could promise you that wasn't Eric Nixick's game plan for him, but he was able to survive the round. He landed some good calf kicks early, and then in round 2, he landed a big calf kick that compromised Zhang's leg. Johnny was able to pounce on him and fire away some ground and pound to get a finish. But what a lackluster shit show of a main event it was between these 2 light heavyweights. They definitely have a lot of holes in their game. Just shows you how shallow the light heavyweight division is. But Johnny Walker got it done. Statistically, Johnny only landed 51 total strikes, 50 of them significant. He was 0 for 2 in takedown attempts with 1 minute and 20 seconds of control time. Zhang only landed 28 total, 20 significant with 1 minute and 21 seconds of control time. So Johnny extends ends his 2-fight losing streak, starts a new winning streak. He's 3-2-1 since 2023 and moves up one spot in the rankings to number 12. Zhang ends that 12-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He's 3-1 since 2023 and drops one spot to number 15. So Johnny called for Jan Blachowicz. I think that's the perfect matchup for him. And for Zhang, how about Jan Kutalaba? But what a weird night. The main event, I mean, he probably landed 6 calf kicks in total. To have his leg compromised that badly, Zhang definitely has some work to do. And how Johnny won that with the fucking shit show of a start of a round, I have no idea. The weight issue with Brian Ortega, Sergey was pretty patient. Really, it was the impression of Rong Zhu, Yoni Kavanaugh looking like the real deal, Charles overcoming adversity, and welcome back to the UFC, Kyle Dawkins. But we have this weekend off, Labor Day. Have some fun. Get your football future bets in, because we head back to Paris next week for a solid card. A lot on the line with some major fights. The headliner most likely being a title eliminator between number 1 ranked Nasruddin Imavov and number 6 Caio Borralho. That's episode 113. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.